Welcome to the Sober and Wellness Podcast. If you're a businesswoman seeking to elevate your life and unlock your full potential, you are in the right place. I am your host, Abigail Padro, and I am passionate about helping you achieve your next level. We will dive into honest conversation about sobriety, how faith can be a powerful anchor. My goal is to empower you to become the best version of yourself and excel in business, relationship, and beyond. Let's embark in this journey together, and I will provide you the tools and inspiration you need to live an alcohol-free life.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Sober and Wellness Podcast. My name is Abigail Padro, and I am your host. Today on this episode, we have the privilege of hearing from Tyler about his journey to sobriety and get ready for some valuable insights. Welcome, Tyler. How are you?
Doing good. How about you, Abby?
Good. Thank you so much for being here with us. So let's just dive in and get into the nitty gritty, okay? To start, can you take us back to what life looked like for you before you embraced the alcohol-free lifestyle? Like, for example, what were some of the key factors or moments that made you consider making that change?
Hindsight provides me with a lot of different moments to look back on. But starting on this journey, there's really two key moments. And the first one was on January 10th, 2024. I was in the middle of caring for my disabled dog who had degenerative myelopathy. It's basically the ALS of dogs. And that was a huge challenge financially, mentally, emotionally. And on January 10th, I coped with that the only way I knew how, with drinking. And after I found or took him to one of his therapy appointments, stopped at a couple breweries on the way home with him and made it home. I did what I usually do after I made sure he was settled and had everything he needed. I started drinking more. And there was something about that day with the weight of the grief I experienced, like pre-grief of knowing I would be putting him down soon. And with all of my drinking habits that I had already built up over the past couple years, that night I experienced a particularly bad blackout. I don't really remember much of that night. I remember waking up the next morning with one of the worst hangovers I've ever had in our guest room and having no idea what happened with that anxiety and panic that set in of what did I do? What did I say? What happened? Because one moment I was standing in my kitchen after getting my dog food and water after arriving back home. And the next moment I was waking up. And my wife was the angriest I've ever seen her in the entirety of our relationship. And that was very difficult to deal with while also powering through the hangover the whole next day. There was something particularly bad about that hangover in that I didn't treat it the way that I normally would, which was with more drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I white knuckled it through the rest of that hangover. And I knew I needed to try something different, and that's when I downloaded an app called Reframe that I know you're very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was scared. I felt alone, and I didn't know what else to do, but I knew that I couldn't keep drinking. I joined the newcomers meeting, I believe 2 days after that on January 12th of 2024, and just listened in. And what I heard was not what I was expecting, in that I heard so many stories that were so similar to mine. And so, like a lot of other reframers, I went roughly around somewhere between 35 and 40 days alcohol free and thought that I was cured and thought that I had a handle on my drinking again. I had a handle on not drinking. I didn't have a handle on my drinking. So I went back to moderation. And on March 25th, my wife and I put our dog down. And in the week after that, I didn't drink. And somehow I told myself through that I was able to control my drinking if I didn't drink then. So slowly between essentially the first week of April and at some point in the middle of summer, that began a slow descent back into a full relapse. And on October 2nd, 2024, 3 days before my second ultra marathon, I don't remember driving home from a bar. And I drove my wife's car, luckily made it home safe-ish in that there was no damage to the car, no damage to myself. I didn't face any legal
Mhm.
ramifications from operating a vehicle while intoxicated. The exact same scenario. Woke up, didn't really remember what happened. Wife was very angry. And there was something about just the whole deja vu of repeating that all over again. And I knew exactly where I needed to go, and then I knew that I needed help. So I went right back to reframe, and it hasn't been a linear journey since then, but it's now day 74 alcohol free for me. I've been on reframe consistently for the last, what would that be, 7 months? And there's been a lot of up and downs, but I've kind of known since, you know, driving drunk that one day, and that wasn't the first time, it wasn't the fifth time. There was
Mhm.
something about what happened in that day in particular, and the deja vu from the last time that I experienced a blackout, that I knew that I needed help and I knew I needed to change. And I knew I couldn't moderate. And I needed several times to reiterate that to myself with a lot of reframe support. But here I am today on day 74, alcohol free. And I truly believe that I'm not going to look back, because my life is so much better on this side of, the fence, as I like to call it, in that alcohol is now removed from my life.
Wow. Well, I want to start by saying I'm sorry about your dog. I know what it is. I did put my dog down, not this past December, before that. She was 11 years old and came out of nowhere. It was horrible. So I know. I'm so sorry. Some people don't understand, right? When you like talk about dogs, especially people that don't have animals, but they become part of your family. It's, you're losing a family member, your furry baby, like we call it. But I want to say congratulations on 74 days, plus the ones you have before that, the 30 days, because we don't lose no days, right? You were working on yourself. So that's amazing. You're an ultra marathoner runner. I have to bring that up. If anyone knows me, you know that that's one thing that I want to get to. It's one of my dreams. It's hard. And I think one of the things about running, it's something that you cannot buy. You have to put in the work. Like there's no cutting it. There's no other, you cannot cheat of it, like you either do it or you don't, and it's little by little while your body gets better and better and better to run that amount. We're talking about you're running 26 plus miles. Like, wow, some people don't even run 3, so that's huge. And I know we're going to get into that in a minute, because I really want to know, how were you able to run that and drink,
So that's the $1 million question. I say normal person, any logical person, outside observer, would think that would be impossible. Somehow my body made it possible, and I don't quite know how. And kind of is how training for ultra marathons works in general, in that it is a slow build. So to give you kind of like a short background on my running career, I ran a little bit in college here and there. I think the max I ever ran was 6 miles. Um, and then I spent a long time not running, more time in the gym, working out, to try to stay healthy, even though I was drinking profusely on top of it. But with the pandemic hitting in 2020 and gyms being closed down, that's when I got back into running. And I went from barely being able to run a mile in 2020, and I say barely as in it not being a struggle, to where I'm at now. It's been 5 years of consistent progress, almost to the day. We're about, 2 weeks away from when I started running again, 5 years ago. I think the reason, or the way that my body was able to put up with it, is kind of the way that, our bodies are resilient and put up with our drinking. It just got used to drinking, only partially recovering, and running on top of it. So with the way that ultramarathon training works, with slow building your miles, doing other kinds of activities to supplement your overall fitness, it also found a way to somehow recover from drinking, throughout that. And while it seems ridiculous that I would put my body through that in the beginning, like doing both at the same time, I've tried to like flip that in my mind, in that I know I can push myself further and I know I can do hard things, because I did a lot of this while drinking on top of it. So now that I'm not drinking, I know my body's even stronger now than it ever has been really in my entire life, and especially in my adult life.
Wow. Yeah, because the most that I've done without stopping, it's 10 miles. And that was because I was training 4 days a week, having different kind of training tempo intervals and little by little. If I would have had my drinking career like I did, there's no way because let's, for example, I was the kind of drinker, I'm a binge drinker, so I don't drink daily or anything like that. But the day that I drank a lot of like 6, 7 plus drinks. So you know that if I do 2 days, let's say in the week, like it was usually like a day in the week and one day of the weekend, right? Right there, you those 2 days plus two more to get better and recuperate, it's 4 days. Where do you see what I'm saying? I wouldn't be able to do it. So wow, you are something else then. I'm gonna tell you that much. So as
Thank
you
you.
move through those early stages and you continue on your alcohol-free path that you are right now, what were some of the most significant positive transformations or unexpected joys that you have started experiencing so far?
So far, I'd say the biggest two, right, are almost, and I say almost, a complete decrease. So not completely getting rid of, but a very, very large reduction in my anxiety and in my depression. I just thought that it was something that I was going to live with for the rest of my life. And I think it still is, but not at the level that I was experiencing it. I've been frequently told by my wife, my family, and my friends that I can tend to be in very negative moods and be a very
Mhm.
negative person. And going alcohol free has diminished that in indescribable. And it's not to say that, life doesn't have its challenges and that I don't experience negative moods, but they are a fraction of what they were living life in active addiction.
Mhm.
In kind of the way that I explain it to people most succinctly is that it's like living life with this dark cloud hanging around you all the time and you just thinking that's how life is. Then all of a sudden that cloud lifts and there's so much sunshine and brightness and life around you that you never saw before. And that, is a little bit of a cheesy way of putting it, but that's truly what it feels like now. Um, Life is just, I feel life more, and my anxiety and my depression are at a manageable level because of it.
Yeah, I love that what you said, that analogy, because it's true. I feel that way with clarity and the fogginess that I had. I tend to sometimes I self-diagnose ADHD, but I've never been diagnosed, which I think all of us have some sort of ADHD just because how we work now and how society is. We're bombarded with so many notifications. It's insane. And that in itself, it's already making me feel like my attention is everywhere at all times. But that's exactly how I feel. I feel like a cloud just got out. And I know it sounds cliche, kind of, and you're like, yeah, whatever. It is true. And I'm almost a year and a half. And I tell people it has become for me like a superpower because I know my brain has been healing. It takes up to 2 years. I don't know if you know that. It takes up to 2 years for your baseline to go completely normal, right? But I will say that little by little, you do see, like, I remember when I started, the first 4 months were for me tough because I think I was bored. A lot of my lifestyle was around drinking, friends, bars, what we all do. And taking that off and pushing through that difficult time, which it was tough, right? Has led me to do so many other things. And my mental clarity is off the chain. I can actually get so many things done. But the number one thing, too, is consistency. I'm consistent to whatever I do. I can talk about this podcast. I decided to do a podcast to share because I want to tell the world that there is another way. Like you said, we don't have to live like your normal. I can guarantee you that if you stop drinking, will not be your normal. It will get better. But what we need to understand that sometime in order to get better, you just have to get a little bit worse for a little bit and then you see the benefits. You know what I mean? So sobriety is often described, as an ongoing journey, which really it is, and it's not a destination. What does maintaining an alcohol-free lifestyle look for you today? Like, what do you think are the things that you have to keep in place?
Yeah, so today, luckily with the ultra running, that requires really rigorous training, and it really puts what I like to refer to as guardrails kind of on my life. It provides a rubric or a routine for which to follow my life. And what I've supplemented that with is daily meditation and daily journaling. I knew pretty quickly in starting off on like for real this time on my alcohol free journey in October that I would need new healthy routines in my life or just the drinking would come back. I knew I had to make a change because I've spent the last decade drinking nearly every day and I need something to replace that. Even if you take out the addictive part of alcohol, I had integrated breweries and craft beer and drinking after every single activity and emotion that I felt that I needed something new to take that place. So, luckily, what I've done in my alcohol free journey is in addition to reframe meetings and support meetings, I've added in daily meditation and daily journaling. And every morning I start my day with meditation. It's the first thing that I do on my phone. I do guided meditation through an app, and it really just sets the intention for me for the whole day. It puts me back in the mindset that today is a great day not to drink. And today I am going to try to be the best version of myself. And it sets that mindfulness and awareness of what I'm doing throughout the day. And am I perfect every second and am I mindful every second? No, but it provides that routine and that rubric from which I can fill in my day from there and live that particular day alcohol free. I know a lot of us like to say, it's one day at a time. That's what really fosters that one day at a time mindset is that daily 10-minute meditation in the morning. And a lot of the rest of my habits and my routines are built in ritual. And so from that meditation, I immediately go to doing the daily tasks on Reframe. And then from those daily tasks, I go into what I affectionately refer to as my coffee routine. And my coffee routine every day is pulling a manual shot of espresso from my manual espresso maker. So it is literally a lever that you pull down. It's not a machine.
Cool.
And then a pint of coffee from a pour over from my chemist. And it's those three steps in succession of what I've found works for me that puts me in the best positive mindset to start my day, whether it's a work day or it's a running day or a weekend. It doesn't matter the day. I always do those things. And they are the meditation, first and foremost, is the number one non negotiable. The coffee routine is a little looser. Obviously, I can't, if I'm, out of town or back home in the Midwest with family, that isn't going to be necessarily as much of a part of it. But the funny thing is it does my espresso puller does have a carrying case, and I do take it with me when I travel sometimes. So
Hmm.
it's like that's the level of which I've fostered that morning routine. So it's kind of the advice that I give to a lot of people is that if you're a morning person or you want to be a morning person, it's more about than just saying today is a great day not to drink. It's fostering that mindset that you're going to step into knowing that that day is a great day not to drink. And it's really been, you know, how I've started my intention of not drinking each and every day. And what we like to refer to as the witching hour can be challenging at times. But again, the meditation sets that mindfulness that I'm able to be aware of when my brain starts heading down the drinking thinking road. Um, After I'm done with work, I naturally loop in running. I do a lot of running at minimum 3 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. Really, most of the time, I only have one or two rest days every week between, cross training on my gravel bike. I would like to start going back to the gym because I do need to do strength training to supplement my running training. But just having all of these hobbies, activities, and routines is really what I believe, has made me so successful in the last 74 days, especially, but in all the sober days that I had before that, between October and March 9th, which is, I haven't switched it yet in, my app. What I currently have as my sober date is October 2nd. But in terms of this recent streak of sobriety, it's been since March 9th of 2025. And it's because of just building that routine and making it non-negotiable for myself. That's what my life really looks like day in and day out. I'm either drinking coffee, working, running, sleeping, or eating. And when you distill it down to like those five things, it could seem, quote unquote, boring on paper, but it's full of so much more than that. Those are just the five basics of, what I do over drinking each and every day.
You said a lot of good things in there. Yeah, it's your foundation. Those five things are your like foundation things that are keeping you. But I wrote here so I don't forget. Just for the people that don't know, Reframe is an app. It's a community. You can either do cutback or you can do alcohol free. And that app, what it's really good is the fact that it has the neuroscience. So that daily task, they give you a 3-minute read, and they talk about all the stuff that alcohol does to you, from your brain, your emotions, your social life. Like, they give you so many tools. It's insane. The reason I am sober today for 507 days in a row this time, it's because of that app and the community, right? Because sobriety is something that you can't do it alone. So the coffee thing, oh my God, I was laughing because I love coffee. I have become a morning person. You get up, I'm excited for my coffee. Like, that's my drink. Sometimes I have to watch out because if I drink it too late, I have 2 cups. But if I have it too late, then I have that problem that I can't sleep. But with that said, becoming a morning person has really definitely changed my life, and coffee has helped. Like, it's the small things that makes your life better. Sometimes we're looking for the big highlights, and the highlights are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. We all enjoy them, but they're not the only thing. Every day you live little by little. We don't live in highlights. Like, sometimes I tell people, you have to understand that when you look at people's social media, whichever platform, you're looking at their highlights of their lives. They don't live like that all the time, and we're comparing ourselves to that. But one thing that I wanted to ask you that I thought it was interesting that you said is that you changed this time. What clicked? What was different that you feel, okay, this time I'm staying sober? Was there anything specifically that made that switch?
So the way that I view it is that I think that part of myself was always there. It's just that active addiction masked it, and drinking nearly every day covered it up. I can think back to so many different times that I would be running hungover, running not hungover, and just thinking, have to stop drinking. Like, I love this so much more than drinking. It's so much more fun. But for the longest time, I didn't want to stop, because drinking was so integrated with my life. So it was like these, two versions of myself, the running me and the drinking me, constantly at war with each other. And I think what happened is just the drinking me caused too much damage, that it finally sunk in that I wanted a better life for myself. If especially when you put on top of that my wife's anger and disappointment and frustration over my blackout episodes, my poor moods, and just generally spending tons of money on alcohol, when I think it was just the perfect storm of just having another bad blackout, but also had that past experience of being on Reframe, and I had that past month of sobriety, that I knew that there was a possibility out there to have a better life. So something just finally clicked, and the big thing that I tell people in support groups is that there's something about March 9th, 2025, after my last slip. And we've heard to a slip. A lot of people refer to it as a relapse. The reason I choose the word slip is because, it wasn't catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
in that I just did drink. And the next day, like so many other times, I went running hungover because running was such a big part of who I am and it's what I do. And something, I don't know if it was directly caused by the hangover or if it would have happened anyway if I would have been alcohol free the day before. But I ran straight into a tree branch that I didn't see and cut my head open and had to go to the ER. And it wasn't anything crazy. I did have to get 6 staples, but it wasn't like a life or death situation. It
Mm-hmm.
just, I couldn't close the wound on my own. And there was something that just, that was the final nail in the coffin. That running into the tree branch, it was like, I finally said to myself, are we going to keep doing this? Are we going to keep just trying the same thing and expecting different results? You have the reframe community. You have the ability to put sober days. You meditate, you journal. You have so many other things that you can do other than drinking. Are we really going to keep trying to integrate alcohol back into my life? And for some reason, when I had that conversation with myself on March 9th, the answer was no, I'm done. There's no more room for alcohol in my life anymore. And it took a lot of slips and a lot of repetition and a lot of just trying to set those new habits and those new routines for everything to finally click into place on March 9th. And it's why I've been so successful the last 74 days. I've constantly heard in support groups that the two things I've already said it numerous times is today is a great day not to drink, but there's nothing in this life that requires a drink or is worth drinking over. And I had heard that so many times, and March 9th was finally the time that I truly felt it, deep within my soul, basically. And I just knew that the path forward for me was I want to be an ultra runner. I want to see how far I can go. I'm only 33 years old. Am I going to spend the next 30 to 40 years of my life drinking my wallet, my health, and my brain away? Or am I going to just do all the awesome other things I do in life and give up one thing? And that's when I ultimately made the decision. And I truly feel and truly hope that there won't be another slip. I've done a lot of hard things sober, and I think that there is nothing that requires a drink. And I truly believe that I won't slip again. But the one thing I like to preach is confidence, but not overconfidence. The tools are there for a reason, and I'm going to continue to use them because I know they will.
Yes. That's why I still go to reframe meetings. I don't go as many anymore, but I do because I don't want to ever get into that place where I feel too confident and here I go. I've done way too much work to let it go now. And you said something very important. It's true. There's nothing that requires a drink. I lost my father in this journey, and he passed away on December 2nd. That was the one thing that I thought it will get me back to drinking. If anything, that will be it. But it didn't. It didn't because I had to be so present. He was in the hospital. I was making the toughest decision because my mom couldn't do it. So I had to do it. And I am so thankful because I'm like, I would have been such a wreck if I was drinking. I probably would leave the hospital, drink my ass away, come the next day hangover, which means that your mental capacity is not there. And that's what he would have had. It's not fair, right? And the fact that I was there to feel all the emotions and cried all that I had to cry, I was so thankful that I was sober. And I said, well, if I've been able to endure this, I really, really believe that I will not drink ever again. Even though I don't like to say ever, because we don't live forever. It's like a big word, but honestly, I don't
Right.
say it from a place of fear. I'm just happy how I am. I really, I really am. And I am content. I love my life now. And it has changed. I just came to a conclusion actually yesterday. I no longer like to be in big parties. I'm not interested. I like one-on-ones, and that's okay. But I went through a little rough patch there where I was like, oh, I miss this, I miss that. But I'm like, what do I miss about it? It was the drinking. because at the end of the day, those people that were there, I really didn't have much in common. Now, talking about that, the next question will be, how are you dealing with the social aspect? The reason I ask is because I hear this, and so many of our reframe here. People struggle with the fact that alcohol, it's the lubricator to becoming the life of the party, stuff like that. So how is that going for you? Or have you stopped going out?
So I'm very fortunate in that my social life was pretty well primed for an alcohol-free lifestyle naturally because I'm a runner. A lot of us that struggle with alcohol and want to change our relationship with alcohol constantly fret and worry over the amount or that everybody else is drinking as or everybody else around us is drinking as much as we are. But you find out pretty quickly when you stop drinking, especially in a running community, that alcohol messes up your running pretty significantly. So when you surround yourself with friends that are also ultra runners, I found out that I was the heaviest drinker by far. And I really need to put the emphasis by far on that. Spending a lot of time with my friends who I did meet that in a run club that meets at breweries. I found out that luckily the ones that I surrounded myself with were the ones that didn't really drink that much. They certainly they don't have a poor relationship with alcohol. They drink fairly seldomly. I have a good friend that just is going alcohol free just on her own without any support or help because she doesn't need support or help. She's just not really a drinker.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's super validating to share a space with somebody that just doesn't drink. It normalizes it for me and makes me feel normal in those situations. And so I know alcohol is so integrated with every aspect of our society. It certainly is with running. I mean, there's a lot of ultras that I participate in that there's a beer tent or there's mixed drinks that are available at the end of any kind of running event. But there's also a big aspect of non-drinking too and alcohol-free options. So for me, it makes it a lot easier for me to abstain from drinking, not only when those around me don't really drink that much, uh, but I finally built up the courage to open up to my friends and let them know that I was in alcohol recovery so that I couldn't question the decision and that they knew that if I was consuming alcohol that I was in a bad place and that I needed help. So that's held me accountable. And I pretty much do 95% of what I used to do while drinking. I just don't drink. I still go to breweries. Sometimes if I feel in a little bit of a vulnerable place or like I can't quite, I'm just in that drinking thinking mindset, I won't go. Uh, but a lot of the time, especially living in Seattle, most bars and breweries around here have alcohol-free options more than just like soda, like alcohol-free beers. Kombucha is a big thing out here in Seattle. And I'm just blessed to live in a city that caters to the active lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily, out here on the West Coast, a lot of what comes with that is alcohol-free options. So I do have a very similar social life to what I used to have. It was the big part that I've cut out is all the drinking that I did alone and going to certain breweries and establishment alone. I do none of that at all anymore. But what I do with others is very similar.
Okay. Since you're a runner, I have to ask if somebody wanted to start running, because I think running is a great tool. It definitely helped me. Um, stay sober. What will you tell someone that's starting? What tools or what they should do? I used Rana when I started. I don't know if you heard of that app. That's what I was using to train. But do you have any tips?
Yeah, so basically what I use to train is our good friend Google.
Hmm.
I'm blessed to have intuitive mind in that I research and search and plan everything and anything that I'm doing. And what I've found with that is just, I treat my running training a lot like I treat my alcohol free life. in that search for tools, find that what works for you. So the very first tool that I use is a program called Hal Higdon. I believe he's a famous runner, mostly road marathon runner, but I use a lot of his training plans. They are free online to build a running schedule. And with that, I just built it into my own Google sheet, kind of hit the ground, no pun intended, running from there. Um, and I just plan out what my weekly mileage is going to be and what days I'm going to run, if it's going to be a hilly run or a tempo run. Luckily, in the modern age, there's loads of running resources out there. Hal Higdon's a big one. I know that Nike has an actual running training app. I think it's just the Nike app or Nike running app. What's the other one? Under Armour sponsors an app. I think it's called My Fitness or My Run Fitness,
My
something like
run
that.
something.
There's a ton of apps out there that will curate and build a running plan for you. So if you're, a very novice runner in that, you barely run, my philosophy is kind of anything counts as a run. It doesn't have to be a certain speed. It doesn't have to be a certain distance to qualify as a run. The What qualifies as a run is putting on a pair of shoes in appropriate clothing and running indoors on a treadmill or outdoors. And just listen to your body. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of, listening to your own body and just getting the motivation to get outside regardless of the weather. And if you find it difficult, then run indoors on a treadmill. And just start slow. It's okay if your first mile takes you 15 to 20 minutes. Just getting out there and getting started is going to be the biggest key to success. And then once you start getting more used to it, your body starts to get more used to it, then just start putting those tools into place, like we all do with our alcohol-free journey. It's all about baby steps and consistency that can build you to a running lifestyle similarly to an alcohol-free.
Yes, and that feeling when you stop running is the best. I don't know how to explain it. I think that's like what they call the runner's high. It's real. It is the thing. It makes you happy. You can have the worst day. You could be sad. Talking about my dad real quick, I think it was his first month that he passed away. And as many of you know, I ruptured my ACL and I was so emotionally down that I didn't care. And I just went for a run. I ran a mile. Probably I did it took me 15 minutes because I couldn't extend my whole knee or even flex it, but I didn't care. And at that moment, that's what I needed. Instead of grabbing a drink, I went for a run with a ruptured ACL. I mean, I don't advise that to anybody, but I did it. And once I was done, even though I have my knee with that injury, I felt so much better. I don't know. It's just amazing. But I imagine running so many miles like that when you're done. Oh my God, how do you that has to be an experience that I want to get there one day, hopefully, and be like you. Yeah, so let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna get back probably next year. By the time if I get surgery and I get PT, probably will have to be next year. I don't think this year will be, but I'm gonna start running next week and at least do 5Ks. And last time I ran, I was like, oh my God, this is so slow. But I'm like, listen, I'm running. I'm running with a ruptured ACL. Like, who does that? People would give some people that are their legs are okay, they don't do anything. So instead of putting myself down, I was like, you know what? You did it. You went for it. And I ran 2 miles. For me, that was huge. What about eating? Do you do anything specific or do you just eat, whatever?
Yeah, so I use two primary supplements for my run, and usually it's for any run over 10 miles. And that's because I've built my body up to be able to run 10 miles without, any nutrition, basically. That was not always the case. But the two supplements that I use are called Tailwind and Scratch Lab, and they both make those companies make drink mixes. And Tailwind, I believe, has 50 grams of carb per 2 scoops, and you just put it in a soft flask and a pint of water, and you can slowly sip it while you run. And if you look up, videos or pictures of ultra runners, you'll see them with their vest and then the two
Mm-hmm.
bottles with straws coming out of the top of it. Typically, that's what those ultra runners are sipping on is either Tailwind, Scratch. There's quite a few other supplements out there. So that's what I use and what works well for my body. And I typically try to consume, it depends on the level of effort and the elevation that I'm doing because I'm a trail runner. But I typically do anywhere from 50 grams to 80 grams of carbs per hour. And I calculate all of that out, not weigh it out, but measure it out every long run that I do. And if you are just starting out or you're in that 5 to 10 mile range and you're like, oh, I'm just like, I can run 5 miles, but I try to push it further and like my legs feel good, but I just feel drained and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
crap. That means you need to eat. And you just got to figure out what works with your body. A lot of it is trial and error. Some people, the drink mixes do not agree with. And for loss of a better term, it flips their stomach.
Mm-hmm.
To give you an example of what doesn't work for me is nut butter. So almond butter, peanut butter, any kind of nut butter immediately flips my stomach. I can't do it. I've tried. It's very calorically dense, and gives you a lot of carbs and a lot of fats and sometimes a lot of protein. So it's a good like 3-in-1 combo and is great for running because it's a low volume of food to eat. But I can't do it. There's something about nut butters that just flip my stomach and just makes my stomach feel terrible for about 30 to 40 minutes. So it's all about trying what works with your body. So yeah, my recommendation to anybody that kind of wants to get into the nutrition side of running is look into a company called The Feed. They will curate you a subscription based on any kind of running supplement, whether it's drink mixes, gels, or any other kind of snack. And they will send you samples and you can just figure out, what works with your body on any run, basically 5 miles.
Got it. Well, people, let's just get our shoes out and lace up and go for a run. Looking back at your entire journey from the initial decision to where you are today, what is the most powerful piece of advice that you will offer someone who's either just, starting or it's even just considering, or maybe they're just struggling in their own journey?
Most powerful piece of advice. That's a good question and a tough question. I would say the most powerful one for me that I feel most compelled to share with others is that whether it's Reframe, whether it's AA, whether it's this podcast, any kind of sober medium, literature, yeah, I guess that would be literature, podcast, or support group, just listen in to anything and you'll find somebody or some story out there that is so similar to yours that it will make you feel comfort. You won't feel alone. And that's truly what made the difference for me and made the gears start to turn in my head that there is a life out there without alcohol. And there's a lot of people that I was intimidated by and scared, like quite frankly, scared of that, people like you, Abby, that have over 500 days. I just thought that's not going to be possible for me. There's no way I could ever get there. And that applies to 74 days. I never thought in a million years that I would get to 74 days alcohol free. I truly thought that this is what my life was going to be like, is just always struggling with alcohol. So to circle back to your question, what is the, most powerful piece of advice I'd give is just keep grasping at those straws for support. Find sober medium and support groups and just connect and listen until you find a story that resonates with you, because you will start connecting with people out there. Because we all say in support groups that connection is the opposite of addiction. I always kind of thought that was a cheesy saying in the beginning, but I have found that to be the absolute truth. It has made the absolute difference for me. And when I started connecting people is when I truly started caring deeper about myself and wanting that better life that I talked about. And what started making, or giving me the ability to stack those sober days and start to move away from a life of active addiction. Connection truly is the opposite of addiction. And it can be through any kind of sober medium. This podcast, Reframe, just find what connects with you and start to build those healthy habits to replace and find a life that you can live without drinking.
Yes, connection, it definitely is one of the things that you have to do it with someone. Like you said, whether it's Reframe, it is AA, or there's so many more. There's a lot of resources. There's I think She Celebrate Recovery, and I think that one is woman oriented, but there's so many. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Tyler, for being brave and sharing your story with us, because those 74 days are definitely a win. And I know you're going to keep going. And I'm excited to see all those days stack up and see you run. Now I know you have a race coming up. So tell us about that race before we leave. Where are you going to be racing at?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Anything else you want to say before we leave?
Yeah, the only thing I want to say is, I'm super grateful for the opportunity, to appear on your podcast, and grateful for the opportunity for anybody that would listen to this and resonate with my story. I wanted to tell my story and connect with anybody out there that is struggling with alcohol because it's what helped me. And if I can share my story, I know I can help somebody out there like me who was scared and didn't know what to do and thought that they would struggle with alcohol their whole life. I offer my story to help somebody out there that can find an alcohol-free lifestyle.
A huge thank you again, Tyler, for sharing, your honest and very inspiring sobriety journey. And guys, if you are feeling ready to take that next step and explore how one-on-one coaching can help you unlock your full potential in sobriety, I am here. Send me a message to book your free Discover call, and all the information is in the show notes. And thanks again for listening to the Over Wellness podcast, and hope everybody has an amazing night. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Thanks, Ed.